Hey there, thanks for joining me for another one of my videos. We're going to be painting Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. This is a pretty extensive overview of my process, so you're going to see the video will start with an acrylic underpainting, and then we're going through some oil on paper. If you're interested in seeing the full painting process, you can check out my Twitch channel, which is also Diligent Visual. Let's go ahead and roll the super cheesy intro. Alright, so here we go with our speed painting here. You can see that the paper was prepared with just some latex house paint. And I'm using acrylic on here. It's a limited palette called the Zorn Palette. The Zorn Palette is a limited palette which includes only black, white, a red, and a yellow so that you can mix every other color that you need. You can see here that I'm just kind of laying things in. It looks like a bit of a mess. It almost appears like I have no idea what I'm doing. And to some degree, that is true with all art. You have to kind of wrestle with the material and wrestle with the surface and wrestle with yourself and your ability. But a lot of this is sort of an approach that is kind of the equivalent of an old paint by number, if anyone has ever done a paint by number where they give you the numbers and you fill in the correct color. It's similar to that. So I'm laying in spots of color all around here to kind of give myself a little bit of a base to work on. But all the colors that you see again are all mixed from the Zorn palette. You can look that up online if you are interested in exploring that a bit further in your own work. And there's a little bit of a problem with the speed paint. It kind of like relapsed a little bit, but this is about as far as I took it with the underpainting, and then I move into the oils. Finally, I think that's kind of the idea of it all in the end, is that I'm doing actual work. So to talk about this painting again that I'm working on.
Dad, can they hear me?
Yeah, especially when you yell out, "Dad, can they hear me?" Well, anyway, I'm going to just paint because now I got this stupid equipment issue figured out. I can just concentrate on that. And I think what's going on in the background here now, that we have good audio and we have the cameras are good. I've got a little, it's like a slideshow going on here on my page that's just showing a bunch of my work. And then I've got some Fortnite going on behind me, so that would be a separate problem that I can't do. There's no mute button on the kids, especially when we're all holed up in the house for the last. I don't even know how long. It feels like we've been trapped here together for months, but it's been, I don't know, a couple weeks now. This is like week 2 of the new world that we're living in, where people don't really go anywhere, which is cool because that's why I'm allowed to do stuff like this. So if it wasn't for the state of affairs right now, I would be on a Tuesday probably having taught all day in a high school. I would probably be driving back and forth between events. I'd be going to drop somebody off at practice and pick somebody else up from something else and bring them over somewhere else. And there would just be all of life would be getting in the way, and there wouldn't really be any time for painting.
That one.
So we're working on a piece of Tyrion. This is actually oil paint. So this is oil on paper, and it is what I do here. I'm gonna do a YouTube video of this, kind of showing you the process from start to finish. Well, at least the underpainting portion of it. But if I turn the page here, you can see I just got a sketchbook of this really nice heavy paper. And what I do is I take latex house paint and I just paint the latex house paint over the page, and that seals it so that the oil will not seep into the paper. or through the backside. And then I just went in and I did an acrylic underpainting on this one. Usually I'll just go right in with the oil paint, but for this one, I was kind of going in and using acrylics to get myself like a base of something to paint on. And then from there, I'm using oil on paper. So when you're looking up on the screen there and the slideshow of the work, there should be a couple of instances of similar paintings that were done on paper. And the work there, I put together that slideshow this afternoon. That took quite a while too, but I went into a folder that had a bunch of my artwork in there, and I started to select each of the boxes of the pieces that I wanted to use. So I was going through basically on my camera roll, and 3 times I was almost finished, and I just slightly clicked the wrong spot and it lost all my selections. So I had to start the process over 3 times. By the 3rd time, I was swearing up a storm down here because I kept having to start over, which was infuriating. But now that I got that, there's about 50 different slides on that little show going there. And I also set up this morning a couple of different screens in OBS so that I can slide from one screen to another. I got like more of like a full screen of what I'm doing here, and then I've got one where it's just like a static image in the background. I'm not sure if the slideshow portion of this is going to affect how smooth everything is, because I think it has to process quite a bit more information. And I actually crashed OBS at one point with the slideshow because the images were full size. So it was like, a 20 megabyte image, another 20 megabyte image, and it was like 50 of them cycling through, which just brought my computer to its knees and crashed. So I went into Photoshop and resized all those images. And it's not everything that I've ever done, but it's kind of some more recent stuff. It goes back a few years, and I don't know, just to give you something else to look at, I guess, while I'm painting, because you could sit and look at this, and you could sit and look at my face, but both of those two things I would imagine are going to get old. So you can enjoy that little slideshow there. And again, I'm going to probably go about this by doing this here. I'll get this to a certain point, and then what I'll usually do at that point is photograph it, bring it into Photoshop, put it on a layer, and then paint over my painting, which is a pretty typical process that I will follow when I'm doing this type of work. I like to mix together traditional and digital media, because I think they both have their strengths and weaknesses. So if you can capitalize on the strengths and the weaknesses of the media, then you can, I guess that you can use them both to your advantage and not be sort of handicapped by this is a digital piece, so it's going to look this certain way because I'm working within these certain constraints, or this is a traditional piece, so it's going to it's going to have this certain look to it that I can never sort of take to another level. I think, I'm able to talk and paint at the same time, but then sometimes I guess I just have to be quiet and think about what I'm doing here. Well, while I'm being quiet and thinking about what I'm doing there, you're watching the painting in a time-lapse situation again. Just a reminder that if you enjoy this type of content, if you're an artist that's interested in painting or just a fan that really wants to get an inside look at how things are created, check out my YouTube channel. If you haven't already subscribed, if you could do that, that would be awesome. And also, I've just started streaming on Twitch. And you can see the full length session when I'm sitting down and working and sort of just chatting about this and that and the other thing. Check that as well if that's something that you would be interested in watching. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of background music in here to flip through this rest of this time lapse. Yeah, so I guess just a little bit of background noise, and that'll take us to the end where I slow it back down again. So be sure to stick around to see what it looks like at the point of finish for this stage. And then my plan is for the next part to take this into Photoshop and do a digital painting over this rough oil sketch on paper. out a little bit. It was just too light, I think, so it was really drawing the eye over there. I paint and I know things. Ooh. It's so shiny. It's so shiny. All right. Well, I've been here for an hour. I'll be heartbroken if this if this didn't even work. That'd be something. But I see green lights. That must mean that it must mean that something's working. You know, when you look at his eyes, like you think, okay, well, he's got like these bluish gray eyes, and I don't have blue on my palette, so you're mixing black and white, and it like your brain is saying to you, open a tube of blue, you idiot. But I know that I don't need it because that color and that value is probably, like relatively speaking, relative to the rest of the piece, it's probably about right. And if you added color to it, if you added blue to it, it would be too much. It wouldn't make sense. Holding them up there so we can see them for a second before I get up and walk around. All right, everybody, take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Like, there's like a little button that they put on the laptop or something, and then they say click it, and then you can never even miss a video.
That's if you subscribe.